The Scorpion King's motorcycle gang thought they were untouchable in Arizona's Mesa County. They'd built their criminal empire through intimidation and calculated violence, leaving a trail of broken lives across 3 states. But on a scorching summer night, they made a fatal mistake that would become legendary in criminal history. They kidnapped Nathan Reynolds. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. They saw what they wanted to see. A middle-aged accountant, an easy target to pressure his sister into dropping her lawsuit. What they couldn't see was the shadow behind his sister's quiet smile. The same shadow that had haunted criminal nightmares for a decade as the most lethal undercover operative ever to serve with the DEA, the woman who dismantled 18 drug cartels without ever compromising her cover. The legend they called the Phantom, because if you knew she was there, it was already too late. Now, as the Scorpion Kings celebrate their latest power play in their desert compound, surrounded by the state's most dangerous criminals, Melissa Reynolds is exactly where she wants to be, working in their kitchen, wearing their colors, and invisible to their arrogant eyes. Because sometimes justice takes patience. Sometimes it takes a ghost to bring down an empire. And the Scorpion Kings are about to learn why, even a decade later, hardened criminals still whisper her name in fear. The Arizona sun beat down mercilessly on Mesa County, turning the sprawling desert landscape into a shimmering mirage of heat and dust. 15 miles outside the small town of Copper Springs, a modest ranch house stood in defiant isolation, its weathered wooden structure a testament to decades of desert survival. Inside, Melissa Reynolds moved with practiced efficiency, her boots leaving precise tracks in the thin layer of dust that had settled overnight. To anyone watching, she looked like any other local rancher starting her day, a 48-year-old widow managing her late husband's property alone. Nothing remarkable about her faded jeans, worn boots, or the sun-bleached baseball cap that shadowed her features. But Melissa never stopped watching back, even in the presumed safety of her own home. The wall calendar marked with a red X caught her attention as she poured her morning coffee. 6 months since she'd returned to Copper Springs. 6 months of careful planning, of building her cover, of becoming invisible in plain sight. The mug in her hand bore the faded logo of the Copper Springs Sheriff's Department, a reminder of her late husband Michael's 20 years of service before cancer. Took him 3 years ago. Melissa moved to the window, scanning the perimeter of her property with practiced precision. She caught the glint of chrome in the distance, a motorcycle making its 3rd pass along the property's border this week. Same gang colors, different riders. The Scorpion Kings were getting bolder. Inside the ranch house, her brother Nathan was already at the kitchen table, his laptop open, papers spread around him. At 52, Nathan Reynolds carried himself with the meticulous precision of the accountant he was. White button-down shirt despite the heat, reading glasses perched precisely on his nose, thinning brown hair carefully combed. "They're back again," Melissa said, not looking up from her coffee as she continued to track the motorcycle's movement. Nathan tensed but didn't raise his eyes from the screen. "4th pass this week," he noted, his voice tight with controlled tension. "Sheriff Dawson says they're just passing through, part of some big rally in Phoenix next month." "Is that what he says?" Melissa's voice carried a careful neutrality that anyone who truly knew her would recognize as dangerous. She set her coffee down and pulled a chair across from her brother. "And you believe that?" Nathan finally looked up, meeting his sister's steady gaze. The siblings shared the same deep-set hazel eyes, though Nathan's reflected the straightforward honesty of a man who'd spent his life working with numbers and facts. Melissa held something harder, something that seemed to evaluate and calculate on a level beyond simple mathematics. "No," he admitted. "Not after what happened to the Wilson property last month, or the threats to Henderson's gas station. But what else can we do? The lawsuit is already filed." Melissa's face remained impassive, but her mind was cataloguing, processing, planning. The lawsuit had been Nathan's idea, a legal challenge to the Scorpion King's quiet purchase of land throughout Mesa County through shell companies. Nathan had followed the money, documented the pattern, and presented evidence of tax fraud, money laundering, and illegal property acquisition to the county prosecutor. It was the act of a good citizen, a man who believed in the system. It was also the act of a man who didn't truly understand the nature of the predators circling their small town. "We could withdraw it," Nathan suggested, though his tone indicated he already knew her answer. "It's not about the lawsuit," Melissa replied, her voice carrying an edge she rarely allowed herself. "The Kings have bought or intimidated their way into controlling every piece of land along the old mining road. This legal challenge is just slowing them down." She moved to a wall map of Mesa County that hung beside an old family photo. Melissa, Nathan, and Michael at the Grand Canyon 5 years ago. Her finger traced the route of the old mining road that cut through the northern part of the county. "Perfect route for moving product," she said quietly. "Connects to the interstate, minimal law enforcement presence, good sightlines for spotting trouble." Her assessment was automatic, professional, the kind of evaluation she'd performed countless times in her former life. Nathan watched his sister with a mixture of concern and curiosity. After Michael's death, Melissa had disappeared for nearly 7 years, only occasionally calling to let him know she was alive. When she'd returned 6 months ago after their father's funeral, something had changed in her. Something harder, more focused, as if she'd come back with a purpose beyond simply reclaiming her husband's property. "You sound like you've given this a lot of thought," he observed carefully. Melissa's expression shifted into something more casual, more aligned with the rancher widow she appeared to be. "Just thinking out loud. Michael always said to understand. Criminals, you have to think about what they want, what they're willing to do to get it." Their conversation was interrupted by the sound of vehicles approaching, not the single motorcycle from earlier, but multiple engines, heavy and purposeful. Melissa moved to the window with fluid efficiency, her stance changing subtly. Nathan wouldn't notice the transition, but in that moment, the widow became something else entirely, a predator assessing threats. 3 black pickups with tinted windows pulled up in front of the house, each bearing the red Scorpion decal that had become increasingly common throughout Mesa County. The center truck's door opened, and a man stepped out with the confident swagger of someone used to people moving out of his path. Jack Reeves, president of the Scorpion King's MC, former Army Rangers, suspected of orchestrating a criminal operation that stretched across 3 states. He'd transformed a small-time motorcycle club into a sophisticated network dealing in drugs, illegal weapons, and territory control. His appearance at the Reynolds Ranch wasn't a coincidence. It was a message. "Stay inside," Melissa told Nathan, her voice carrying the same quiet authority that had once commanded undercover operations across South America. "Whatever happens, whatever you hear, stay inside." Nathan started to protest, but fell silent at the look in his sister's eyes. In that moment, he glimpsed something beneath the widow's exterior, something that seemed both foreign and strangely familiar, as if he were seeing a version of his sister he'd somehow always known existed but had never directly witnessed. Melissa stepped onto the porch as 2 more men exited the flanking vehicles. Younger, harder-looking men with patches marking them as Reeves's lieutenants. She noted how they positioned themselves, automatically cataloguing their stance, the subtle bulges under their leather vests indicating concealed weapons, the way their eyes constantly scanned for threats. Motorcycle. Then we'll need a not simple biker. These were men with training, possibly military or law enforcement backgrounds. Mrs. Reynolds, Reeves called out, his voice carrying a practiced charm that didn't reach his eyes. Beautiful. Morning for a visit. Melissa's posture subtly shifted into something non-threatening, something that projected vulnerability and uncertainty, the exact image of a widow uncomfortable with unexpected visitors. "This is private property, Mr. Reeves," she replied, her tone polite but cautious. Reeves smiled, removing his sunglasses with theatrical precision. He was in his late 40s, with salt and pepper hair and the weathered face of someone who'd spent years under the desert sun. His eyes, however, were cold and calculating, constantly evaluating. "That's exactly what I wanted to discuss with you, Mrs. Reynolds. The property." He gestured expansively. "My organization has development plans for this region, plans that could benefit everyone, including you and your brother." Melissa noted how his lieutenants subtly spread out, trying to establish dominant positions around the porch. An amateur move. They were telegraphing their intentions to anyone trained to see it. "We're not interested in selling," she replied, maintaining her role as a simple rancher's widow. "This property has been in my husband's family for generations." Reeves' smile tightened almost imperceptibly. "Things change, Mrs. Reynolds. Progress comes whether we want it or not. Smart folks adapt." He shrugged, his leather vest shifting to momentarily reveal the handle of a pistol holstered at his side. "Others, they tend to get left behind. Sometimes, tragically." Melissa allowed a flash of fear to cross her face, feeding their assumptions. Let them think they were dealing with a simple widow and her accountant brother. Let them underestimate her. It's what she'd been planning for months. "Are you threatening us, Mr. Reeves?" she asked, allowing a tremor to enter her voice. "Threatening?" Reeves spread his hands in a gesture of innocence. "I'm offering you a way forward, $2 million, well above market value, because I respect what you and your brother have here." His voice hardened slightly. "But that offer won't last forever, especially with all these legal complications your brother seems intent on pursuing." The mention of the lawsuit confirmed what Melissa already knew. The Kings had sources within the county government, possibly within the sheriff's department itself. The corruption ran deeper than even Nathan had suspected. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Melissa wrapped her arms around herself, the picture of intimidated vulnerability. I'll need to discuss this with my brother." "Of course." Reeves's smile returned, satisfied that his message had been delivered effectively. He reached into his jacket, making one of his lieutenants tense nervously. Melissa filed that away. The man wasn't used to real violence, just intimidation. Reeves produced a business card, holding it out. Melissa stepped forward to take it, letting them see her slight tremor. Inside, she was counting weapons, analyzing stances, noting how each man carried himself. Everything told her these weren't just bikers. Their quasi-military bearing, the disciplined spacing, the coordinated approach, all suggested connection to something bigger, something more organized than a typical motorcycle gang. 3 days, Mrs. Reynolds," Reeves said as he mounted his answer. The convoy roared away in a cloud of dust, leaving Melissa standing on the porch. She waited until they were out of sight, before her demeanor changed completely. The trembling stopped. Her posture shifted subtly, center of gravity lowering, weight balanced perfectly. This was the stance that had made her a legend in undercover operations, the phantom preparing to hunt. Nathan emerged from the house, his face pale with concern. "Mel, what do we do?" Melissa turned to her brother, letting him see for the first time the steel beneath her quiet smile. "It's starting," she said softly. "They're getting ready to move on, something big, something worth killing for." She looked down at Reeves's business card, a slow, dangerous smile forming. "And they just invited a ghost to their party," Inside the ranch house, on a table tucked in the corner of Melissa's bedroom, sat a small collection of photographs. They weren't family portraits or vacation memories, but surveillance photos, the Scorpion King's compound, their key members, their routes, and schedules. Beside the photos lay a worn badge, not from the sheriff's department, but from the Drug Enforcement Administration, and a single newspaper clipping with the headline, "Undercover Operative the Phantom presumed dead after cartel raid." The widow of Copper Springs was much more than she appeared, and the Scorpion Kings had just made the mistake of threatening the only family she had left. Copper Springs hadn't changed much in the years since Melissa had last called it home. The single main street still housed the same family businesses, though now most sported security cameras and reinforced locks, silent testimony to the Scorpion King's growing influence. Melissa parked her weathered pickup outside Walker's General Store, noting 3 motorcycles clustered near the entrance. Inside, she could hear raised voices. Sarah Walker's store had been in her family for 4 generations. Now it was about to become another kind of lesson. Inside Walker's General Store, 2 Scorpion Kings members flanked the counter where Sarah Walker stood, her face pale but determined. The third, wearing a sergeant-at-arms patch identifying him as Kevin Slater, leaned forward menacingly. "Protection payments ain't optional anymore, Sarah," Slater growled. "Town's changing. Be a shame if something happened to this place." Melissa selected a shopping basket, moving quietly through the aisles. Her presence registered. She saw the nearest biker's hand twitch slightly toward his jacket, ex-military or law enforcement, that telltale gesture. More evidence something bigger was happening with the Scorpion Kings. "I've already paid the business. Association," Sarah's voice carried clearly, strained but resolute. "Sheriff Dawson says Sheriff ain't in charge anymore." Slater swept a display of local honey onto the floor. "We are. $2,000 a month, starting today." Melissa rounded the aisle, her basket filled with normal ranch supplies. She kept her movements deliberate, unthreatening. Just another middle-aged woman doing her shopping. "Oh my," she said mildly, stepping in the sticky honey. "What a mess! Sarah, do you have a mop? I'd be happy to help clean up." The bikers turned, irritation crossing their faces. Slater started to speak, but Melissa was already moving past them to the counter. "Adding these to my monthly account," she said cheerfully. "And I'll need a case of that new coffee you got in, the whole bean dark roast. Nathan says it's amazing." Sarah blinked, then caught on. "Of course, Mel, I'll get that from the back." "Take your time." Melissa smiled at the bikers. "I'm sure these gentlemen were just leaving, weren't you, boys?" Slater stepped closer, using his bulk to intimidate. "This ain't your business, lady." "No?" Melissa's smile remained pleasant, but something shifted subtly in her eyes. Later, Slater would try to explain to his brothers what he saw, something cold, something that triggered instincts he'd learned in combat zones. "My husband's family helped build this town. Sarah's grandfather gave him his first job, so maybe it is my business." She turned back to her shopping list, dismissing them. The insult was deliberate, calculated. Slater's face reddened, his hand twitching again toward his concealed weapon. "You should be careful, Mrs. Reynolds," he growled. "Accidents happen." Melissa didn't look up from her list. "Yes, they do. Like 3 weeks ago when your prospect had that nasty spill out on Canyon Road, the one that wasn't reported." Now she met his eyes. "Funny thing about accidents, you never know who might have seen something." The bikers exchanged glances. That accident hadn't been reported because it happened during a late-night drug shipment. No one was supposed to know about it. "We'll finish this later," Slater told Sarah, trying to salvage some authority, but his voice had lost its edge. After they left, Sarah sagged against the counter. "Thank you, Mel, but you shouldn't have. They're dangerous." "Yes, they are." Melissa began cleaning up the honey with practiced efficiency. "And they're getting more organized. That's what worries me. Sarah got the mop. Sheriff Dawson says they're just passing through, part of some big rally next month. Is that what he says? Melissa's voice was carefully neutral. Interesting, because that's not what his deputy told Eleanor Mason when they tried to pressure her into selling last month. She worked in silence for a moment, letting Sarah process the implications. The store owner was smart. She'd see the pattern. They're buying up all the land along Canyon Road, Sarah said slowly, or forcing people to sell. But why? It's just old mining territory. Maybe, Melissa finished mopping, but it's also the most direct route between the Mexican border and the interstate. Lots of empty land, no cellular coverage in some spots. Perfect for moving things that need to stay off the main roads. Sarah's eyes widened. You think I think, Melissa interrupted gently, that you should take a vacation. Visit your sister in Flagstaff for a week or two. I can't. The store, Melissa's voice was soft but carried absolute authority. Please. Things are about to change in Copper Springs. When they do, it's better if certain people aren't around to see it. Outside, Melissa loaded her supplies into her truck. Her phone buzzed with a text from Nathan. Sheriff Dawson stopped by after you left, asking questions about our plans for the ranch. Melissa smiled. The pieces were moving exactly as she'd predicted. The Scorpion Kings were getting nervous, pushing harder, which meant they had a deadline. Something big was coming. She drove to the outskirts of town, pulling onto a dusty turnout. From here, she could see Canyon Road stretching south toward the border. 9 years ago, she'd been investigating a drug trafficking ring that used rural medical supply companies as cover. The case had led to Arizona before her superiors suddenly shut it down. Now the Scorpion Kings were buying up land along the same route. Her phone buzzed again. Unknown number. The text was brief. They're watching you, getting nervous, like old times. T. Melissa deleted the message. Agent Tyler Martinez, her old handler, was still monitoring things. Good. She'd need backup when the time came. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the canyon as Melissa headed home. In her rearview mirror, she caught glimpses of a motorcycle following at a discreet distance, amateur surveillance. They were watching her while she watched them. Perfect. Everything was falling into place. The Phantom was about to come out of retirement, and the Scorpion Kings were about to learn why drug traffickers still woke up screaming at the memory of her name. But first, she had to give them exactly what they wanted. One seemingly vulnerable widow and her accountant brother, the perfect targets, the perfect trap. Melissa smiled as she drove. Some predators, after all, hunt best from inside the den. Dr. William Carter's clinic sat on the edge of Copper Springs, a modern medical facility built with old ranching money. As Melissa pulled into the parking lot, she noted 3 new security cameras, high-end models with infrared capability, not the kind of equipment a small-town doctor normally installed. She found Carter in his office reviewing patient files on his laptop. The circles under his eyes spoke of sleepless nights. Mrs. Reynolds, he said, closing the laptop quickly, your physical isn't until next week. The cameras are new, Melissa observed, settling into a chair. Expecting trouble, Will? Carter glanced at his office door before speaking softly. 3 Scorpion Kings members came in last night. Gunshot wounds, said it was a hunting accident. He ran a hand through his graying hair. Thing is, the wounds were from military-grade weapons, not hunting rifles. Melissa kept her expression neutral. Hunting accident, that's what Sheriff Dawson's report says. But I saw the damage, Mel. Carter leaned forward. These were professional hits, through-and-through wounds calculated to disable without killing. Before Melissa could respond, raised voices erupted from the waiting room. 2 of Reeves' lieutenants burst in, the same ones from Walker's store. The larger one, Marcus Everett, jabbed a finger at Carter. Those files you were looking at. Hand them over. Now, Melissa remained seated, seemingly forgotten in the corner. She watched Carter stand, noting how his hand moved toward his desk drawer. Former military medic, he'd have a weapon within reach. Patient files are confidential, Carter said firmly. You know that. The second lieutenant, Derek Walsh, drew a pistol. Amateur move, threatening instead of acting. Melissa catalogued his weaknesses automatically. Weight too far forward, grip too tight, eyes focusing on his target instead of scanning. For other threats, confidential doesn't apply anymore, Doc. Boss wants those files. And what exactly does your boss want with private medical records? Melissa's voice cut through the tension. She hadn't moved from her chair, but something in her tone made both men turn. Stay out of this, Mrs. Reynolds, Walsh warned, waving his pistol. This ain't your business. No. Melissa smiled slightly. Tell me, did Reeves send you all of Dr. Carter's files, or just the ones about last night's hunting accident? The lieutenants exchanged glances. Everett stepped toward her. You need to leave, now. Actually, Melissa rose smoothly, her movement making both men instinctively step back. I think you need to deliver a message to Reeves. Tell him if he wants to clean up his messes, he should teach his men better weapons discipline. 3 wounded by friendly fire? That's sloppy. Walsh raised his pistol higher. How did you? The same way I know about the shipment coming in tonight. Melissa's voice turned cold. The same way I know why you're really buying up land along Canyon Road. The same way I know about the deal with the corrupt Border Patrol. Agents. Both men went pale. That information was compartmentalized. Nobody outside Reeves's inner circle should know about it. Who are you? Everett demanded. Just a rancher's widow. Melissa moved toward the door, her stride casual, but her path taking her inside their reaction zones. For now, but you tell Reeves something's changed in his operation. Someone's watching, someone who knows how to look. She paused at the door. Oh, and boys, next time you pull a gun in a doctor's office, she nodded toward Carter's desk. Check. If the target is the only one armed. After she left, the lieutenants found Carter calmly holding a compact .45 under his desk. They left without the files. Melissa drove home along Canyon Road, her mind processing the encounter. The lieutenant's reaction confirmed her suspicions. The Scorpion Kings were running professional drug shipments, using the medical clinic to treat any accidents that occurred, but the operation was bigger than just drugs. The land purchases, the Border Patrol connections, the military-grade weapons, it all pointed to something larger. Her phone buzzed with another text from Agent Martinez. Satellite shows increased activity at abandoned Prescott Mining Company. Warehouse. Matches pattern from Sonora case. Melissa's hands tightened on the steering wheel. The Sonora case, her last official operation before being forced into retirement. An international drug ring using motorcycle gangs as cover. The investigation had led to Arizona before someone high up shut it down. Now the same patterns were emerging in her hometown. She found Nathan on the porch, watching the sunset. They followed you from town, he said quietly. 2 bikes keeping their distance. They're getting bolder. Nathan studied his sister's face. You're going to let them take you, aren't you? It's the fastest way inside. Melissa touched his arm gently. Reeves' organization is moving something big, something worth killing for. But they're sloppy, overconfident. Just like in Sonora. That case almost got you killed. No. Melissa's eyes hardened. That case got shut down because we got too close to someone powerful, someone who didn't want their connection to international drug trafficking exposed. She pulled out her phone, showing Nathan the text from Martinez. The Prescott Mining Warehouse. That's where they'll take me. Perfect sightlines, multiple escape routes, easy access to Canyon Road. Reeves thinks like the military, uses predictable patterns. And if you're wrong, Melissa smiled, the expression sending chills down Nathan's spine. It was the smile that had made hardened criminals confess rather than face her interrogation. I'm not wrong. By this time tomorrow, the Scorpion Kings will make their move. They'll use me as leverage to force you to drop the lawsuit and sell the ranch. Her voice carried absolute certainty. And that's when the Phantom comes out of retirement. That's when we finish what started in Sonora. As darkness fell, Melissa made her preparations. Hidden cameras, emergency weapons caches, pre-positioned supplies. Everything a ghost needed to hunt, because Melissa Reynolds hadn't spent the last 6 months just playing a rancher's widow. She'd been waiting, planning, watching for the operation to resurface. Now the Scorpion Kings had given her the perfect opportunity. All she had to do was let them think they were the predators. Night settled over the Reynolds ranch like a velvet shroud. Melissa sat in darkness, watching her security feeds. The cameras she'd hidden around the property showed 5 Scorpion Kings members taking positions in the tree line. Their movement patterns confirmed her suspicions. These weren't ordinary bikers. They moved with military precision, using standard tactical approaches. Her phone buzzed silently. Agent Martinez. Facial recognition confirms 3 of Reeves's new members are ex-Special Forces, same unit that disappeared after Sonora. Melissa smiled in the darkness. The pieces were falling into place, the same unit that had provided security for the drug shipments she'd been investigating before being forced into retirement. Now they were here, working with the Scorpion Kings. Headlights swept across the ranch house as 2 black SUVs approached. Not motorcycles. The real professionals had arrived. "They're here," she said softly. Nathan's voice came from the darkness, behind her. "Last chance to do this differently." "No." Melissa checked her hidden transmitter one last time. "They need to think they have control. Need to get inside their operation." She touched his hand briefly. "Remember the signal. If I don't send it every 6 hours. I contacted Martinez." "I remember." Nathan's voice was tight with concern. "Just come back to me." "Always." The first flashbang crashed through the front window exactly where Melissa had predicted. The tactical team breached with professional efficiency. 2-man teams, coordinated movement, synchronized timing. In another life, she would have commended their technique. Melissa let them find her in the kitchen, appearing appropriately terrified. The team leader, face hidden behind a tactical mask, zip-tied her hands with practiced ease. "Target secured," he reported into his radio. "No complications." They moved her quickly to the waiting SUV. Through her carefully crafted mask of fear, Melissa noted every detail: 6-man team, latest-gen tactical gear, military hand signals. This was no ordinary biker gang operation. Reeves waited by the vehicles, watching with satisfaction. "Mrs. Reynolds, sorry about the dramatic entrance, but we needed to make a point." "What do you want?" Melissa let her voice tremble. "Same thing as before, the ranch. But now your brother has extra motivation to sell." The drive to the Prescott mining warehouse took exactly 12 minutes. Melissa counted every turn, noted every radio call. The tactical team maintained strict communications discipline. Another sign they weren't typical criminals. Inside the warehouse, the setup confirmed her analysis. Professional guard positions, modern surveillance equipment, secure communications. Center. This wasn't just a temporary holding site. This was an operations base. They secured her to a chair in a central office, giving her a clear view of their activities. Overconfidence. They wanted her to see their strength, their professionalism, to feel helpless. Reeves pulled up a chair. "Don't worry, this won't take long. Your brother's already received our demands. Once he drops the lawsuit and signs the transfer papers, you'll be free to go." Melissa maintained her frightened demeanor while observing everything. Through the office windows, she could see teams unloading crates from a newly arrived truck, military shipping containers, serial numbers, matching the pattern from Sonora. "Why?" she asked, letting tears fill her eyes. "Why our ranch? There's nothing special about that land." "Actually, there is." Reeves leaned back, enjoying his moment of superiority. "Canyon Road is about to become very important. Certain business, Opportunities are opening up. Your ranch is the final piece we need. A commotion at the loading dock drew his attention. One of the tactical team members approached rapidly. "Sir, we've got a problem. The shipment manifests don't match. Someone's been tampering with the routing codes." Reeves' casual demeanor vanished. "Show me." Melissa watched them examine documents at a nearby desk. The tactical team member pointed to something on a laptop screen. "These serial numbers, they're being tracked. Someone's monitoring the shipments." "Impossible." Reeves's voice carried real concern now. "Those codes are classified, military eyes only. Not anymore." The team member lowered his voice, but Melissa's trained hearing caught every word. "Boss, this matches what happened in Sonora. Remember when that undercover agent almost exposed the whole operation?" Melissa kept her expression fearful, but inside she smiled. They'd taken her exactly where she needed to be, at the heart of their operation. Just like old times. Her phone, hidden in a concealed pocket, vibrated once. Agent Martinez's acknowledgement. The tracking devices she'd attached to their vehicles during the kidnapping were transmitting. Everything was proceeding according to plan. Reeves returned, his earlier confidence replaced by barely concealed worry. "Change of plans. We accelerate the timeline. Get the buyer on secure comms. The whole shipment moves tonight." "Sir," one of his men objected, "the border crossing isn't secured yet." "Now!" Reeves ran a hand through his hair. "Something's wrong. This is too similar to Sonora. We need to finish this before—" He stopped, staring at Melissa with dawning suspicion. For just a moment she let her mask slip, let him see what was really behind her tears. Reeves took an involuntary step back. "Who are you?" Melissa smiled, and for the first time that night it reached her eyes, the same smile that had haunted criminals' nightmares for a decade. "You should have checked more carefully," she said softly. "Should have looked deeper into who you were dealing with, but then the traffickers in Sonora made the same mistake." Reeves's face went pale. "The Phantom," he whispered. "You're the Phantom." Around them, his tactical team shifted uneasily. Even years later, that name carried weight in certain circles. "Consider this a friendly warning," Melissa continued, her voice carrying the quiet authority that had once made cartel leaders. "Confess. Release me now, leave Arizona, and this ends here. Continue with tonight's shipment." She shrugged against her restraints. "Well, you know what happened in Sonora." Reeves's response was predictable. "Secure her. Double the guard. No one goes in or out without my direct approval." He leaned close to Melissa. "Phantom or not, you're not stopping this shipment. Too much money involved. Too many powerful people." "I know," Melissa replied calmly. "That's exactly what I'm counting on." As they left her alone in the office, Melissa began counting down in her head. 3 hours until Martinez's team would be in position. 2 hours until the drug buyers arrived. Just enough time for a ghost to prepare for hunting. The Prescott mining warehouse hummed with tense activity as Melissa observed from her secured position. Through the office windows, she watched Reeves's operation with professional interest. 3 shifts of guards rotating every 4 hours, communications center monitoring police bands, tactical teams maintaining perimeter security. Professional, but not flawless. Water. A younger guard approached, holding a bottle. His patch identified him as a prospect named Eric Thompson, former military base based on his bearing, but his eyes showed uncertainty. "Thank you, Eric." Melissa's use of his name made him start slightly. "Marine Force Recon, right? Afghanistan?" His expression confirmed her analysis. "How did you—" "The way you move. That distinct Force Recon scanning pattern." She took a sip of water. "Tell me, what did they tell you about tonight's shipment? I'm not supposed to talk to you, but—" He lingered, curious despite himself. "Of course not. The Phantom is dangerous, even tied to a chair." Melissa's voice carried just enough edge to make him nervous. But you're already having doubts, aren't you? Wondering why a simple land grab needs military-grade tactical teams. Why do those crates have radiation warning labels? Eric glanced involuntarily at the loading dock, where teams were preparing the shipment. Melissa noted the reaction. Radiation. Labels. Another piece of the puzzle. Those aren't just drugs, they're moving, she continued softly. You figured that out, haven't you? Regular narcotics don't need specialized handling protocols. Don't need ex-military security teams. Shut up. But his voice lacked conviction. Did Reeves tell you about Sonora? About what happened to the last team that helped move cargo like this? A door slammed open as Reeves entered, his face tight with controlled anger. Stop talking to the prisoner. He dismissed Eric with a gesture, then turned to Melissa, trying to mask his unease. Trying to turn my men already. You haven't lost your touch. Just making conversation. Melissa smiled pleasantly, reminiscing about old times. Remember Lieutenant Rivera from Sonora, the one who helped us expose the operation? He got full immunity. Reeves's facade cracked slightly. You're not getting out of this. Even if you are the Phantom, you're alone. No backup, no tactical team. Am I? Melissa shifted slightly, making him tense. Are you sure about that? Before he could respond, one of his communications specialists burst in. Boss, we've got movement. Multiple vehicles approaching from the south. Buyers are early. Reeves checked his watch. Not the buyers. The specialist's voice carried real concern. Different approach patterns. Professional. They're maintaining radio silence. Melissa watched Reeves' expression shift. Expecting someone else? She asked. Innocently, his phone buzzed. The color drained from his face as he read the message. How? This is impossible. Those are classified frequencies. Are they? Melissa kept her voice casual. You should ask your buyers about their operational security, particularly their communications. Protocols. Sloppy work. Using the same frequencies as Sonora. Reeves grabbed her chair, leaning close. What did you do? Me? I'm just a hostage. But her smile suggested otherwise. Although you might want to check your vehicles for tracking devices. Standard procedure during a kidnapping. Plant trackers during the initial encounter. Your tactical team was so focused on looking professional, they forgot basic counter-surveillance. New commotion erupted outside. One of the tactical team leaders rushed in. Sir, we've got a problem. Local police scanner just lit up. Multiple federal agencies coordinating with state police. They're establishing roadblocks on all approaches to Canyon Road. Shut it down, Reeves ordered. Scrub everything. Tell the buyers. Too late. Melissa's voice cut through his growing panic. Those roadblocks aren't random. They're boxing you in, using your own tactical approach against you. Standard Phantom protocol. Trap them in their own fortress. Reeves' phone buzzed again. The message made him curse. The buyers are backing out. Say there's too much heat. Of course they are. Melissa settled more comfortably in her chair. Professional drug buyers don't like complications. One hint of federal attention, they disappear, taking their money with them. Through the windows, she could see the operation unraveling. Guards abandoning positions, tactical teams arguing about evacuation protocols, the professional facade cracking under pressure. You planned this, Reeves accused. The kidnapping, the tracking device, the buyers getting spooked. You wanted to be caught. Partly true. Melissa met his gaze calmly. I needed to confirm the connection to Sonora, needed to identify the real players, the ones above you, Reeves. The ones who shut down my investigation 9 years ago. A new voice crackled over the warehouse speakers, Agent Martinez's distinctive tone. Attention, Scorpion Kings. This is a federal operation. We have you surrounded. All exits are covered. Surrender now. Melissa watched the last of Reeves's confidence crumble. You know what happens next, don't you? Your buyers are gone, your tactical teams are ready to run, and everyone up the chain is already destroying evidence, erasing connections. You're bluffing, Reeves snarled. This is just you and Martinez trying to... Another specialist rushed in. Boss, we've got satellite coverage, military grade. Someone's painting the building with targeting data. Melissa smiled. Still think I'm bluffing? Your buyers weren't just afraid of federal attention. They were afraid of me, afraid of what the Phantom might have uncovered about their operation, about their connections to Sonora. Around them, the warehouse erupted in chaos as Scorpion King's members realized the trap they were in. Some wanted to fight. Others were already looking for escape routes. The professional tactical team stood apart, communicating urgently on their secured channels. One last chance, Reeves. Melissa's voice carried absolute certainty. Surrender. Now, tell us everything about the buyers, about the radioactive shipments, about Sonora. Oh, she shrugged. Well, you remember what happened to the last organization that underestimated the Phantom? Reeves stared at her for a long moment, weighing options that were rapidly disappearing. Outside, federal vehicles could be seen taking position. The net was closing. The Phantom was hunting again, and this time she had them exactly where she wanted them. The Prescott mining warehouse had become a pressure cooker. Melissa watched Reeves' organization fracture as federal forces tightened their perimeter. The professional tactical teams had separated themselves from the regular Scorpion King's members, their military training obvious as they established defensive positions. Sir, Eric approached Reeves nervously. The radiation sensors, they're showing readings from those crates. What exactly are we moving here? Shut up and maintain your position, Reeves snapped, but Melissa caught the fear beneath his anger. The operation was unraveling faster than he could control. Tell him, Reeves, Melissa suggested calmly from her chair. Tell him about the specialized components, the ones that need those lead-lined containers, the ones your buyers are willing to pay millions for. I said shut up. Reeves drew his pistol, but his hand shook slightly. The tactical team leader stepped forward. Boss, we need to make a decision. Local police scanners show federal tactical units moving into position. At least 3 different agencies. They're following Phantom Protocol, Melissa explained helpfully. Multiple agencies, synchronized approach. The same technique I used in Sonora. She smiled at Reeves. Remember how that ended? Half the organization tried to surrender, hoping for deals. The other half, well, hospitals in 3 states got very busy. Eric moved closer to Melissa, his voice low. What happened in Sonora? Don't answer, Reeves started, but Melissa's voice cut through his command. International drug trafficking. Military-grade components being sold to foreign buyers. Sound familiar? She watched Eric's face as realization dawned. Just like now, same buyers, same protocols, even the same radiation warnings on the crates. The tactical team leader cursed softly. Those aren't just drug components in those containers, are they? We're moving nuclear materials. The warehouse erupted in angry shouts as more Scorpion King's members overheard. Regular bikers signed up for drugs and guns, not nuclear trafficking. Melissa watched the chaos spread with professional satisfaction. You're enjoying this, Reeves accused, his face pale with rage. Immensely. Melissa shifted in her chair, making her guards tense. Watch your men, Reeves. See how they're dividing. Military-trained personnel by the exits. Regular members clustering. Together. They're choosing sides. Just like Sonora. An explosion rocked the perimeter as federal forces detonated their first breach charge, not penetrating yet, just demonstrating their position. Classic Phantom Protocol, psychological pressure before physical assault. Boss, a communications specialist called from his station, we're being jammed, all frequencies going dark. Tell me, Reeves, Melissa's voice carried through the growing chaos. Did your buyers mention what happens to failed operators? The ones who lose shipments? Because I remember files full of accidents and disappearances, more explosions outside. Agent Martinez's voice boomed through professional-grade speakers. Attention all personnel. We have satellite confirmation of nuclear materials on site. This is now a federal containment operation. Surrender immediately, or we will use lethal force. The effect was immediate. Regular Scorpion Kings members began throwing down weapons. The professional tactical teams established a defensive perimeter, but Melissa could see the uncertainty in their movements. "Nuclear components?" Eric whispered, horrified. "We've been moving nuclear weapons components?" "Not your fault," Melissa told him quietly. "They pick ex-military carefully. Men who follow orders don't ask questions until it's too late." Reeves's phone buzzed. His face went ash-white as he read the message. "No, they can't. They promised. Let me guess," Melissa said pleasantly. "Your buyers just officially disavowed all connection to this operation. Standard protocol when a shipment is compromised. Right now they're erasing records, eliminating links. Soon they'll start eliminating witnesses." The tactical team leader grabbed Reeves's arm. "Is she right? Are they going to burn us?" "Nobody's burning anybody." Reeves shoved him away. "We stick to protocol. Destroy the evidence, eliminate witnesses, break contact." He glanced at Melissa, "including her." "You want us to kill a federal agent?" Eric gestured at Melissa. "Former agent," Reeves corrected, but his voice lacked conviction. "Actually," Melissa smiled, "my reinstatement paperwork was filed this morning. Agent Martinez's orders, full federal authority." She met Reeves's eyes. "Want to add killing a federal officer to nuclear trafficking charges?" Another explosion, closer now. Through the windows, Melissa could see federal tactical teams moving into position. The warehouse had become a trap, just as she'd planned. "Options?" "Boss?" The tactical team leader's voice carried military precision, but also fear. "We're running out of time." Melissa watched Reeves wrestle with his diminishing choices. Outside, more Scorpion Kings members were surrendering. The professional teams were separating into smaller groups, some clearly planning to fight while others prepared to run. 9 years, Reeves," she said softly. 9 years I waited for this operation to resurface, for the real players to show themselves. And you led me right to them." Reeves' phone buzzed again. This time, reading the message made him stumble backward, true terror crossing his face. "They're here," he whispered. Melissa's smile widened. "The buyers? Good. I was hoping they'd come personally." She shifted again, making the chair creak. After all, a ghost can't hunt what it can't see. Until now. 3 black SUVs approached the warehouse's rear entrance, their diplomatic plates catching the security lights. Melissa counted 12 men emerging, private military contractors based on their movement patterns. Their leader wore an expensive suit that didn't quite hide his tactical vest. "Alexander Reed," Melissa said softly, recognizing the weapons buyer from her Sonora files. "Still hiding behind diplomatic immunity, I see." Reeves spun to face her. "You know him?" "Of course. He was the one who ordered the Sonora operation shut down, called in favors, had my investigation buried." Melissa's smile turned predatory. "Been waiting a long time to meet him properly." Reed entered with the confident stride of someone used to owning every room. His security team spread out efficiently, assuming control of key positions from Scorpion King's members. "Mr. Reeves," Reed's cultured voice carried clear authority, "you assured me this facility was secure." "It is," Reeves started, but Reed cut him off. "Really? Then explain the federal tactical teams outside. Explain how our secure frequencies were compromised." His eyes found Melissa. "Explain why you're holding a federal agent in your office." "Former agent," Reeves corrected automatically. "No." Reed moved closer, studying Melissa. "This is the Phantom, The one who almost exposed our Sonora operation. A thin smile crossed his face. I wondered if you'd surface again. Couldn't resist, Melissa replied calmly. Same sloppy protocols, same radioactive signature on the shipments. You never learn, Alexander. Radioactive, boss? Eric shifted nervously. You said this was just weapons. Shut up! Reeves's control was cracking. Everyone just shut up and maintain their position. But Melissa could see the warehouse dynamics shifting. Reed's security team was isolating the nuclear components, while Scorpion King's members began backing away, realizing the true scale of what they'd been involved in. Your men weren't informed. Reed raised an eyebrow at Reeves. Sloppy operational. Security, just like Sonora. He turned to his security chief. Prepare for cleanup protocol Alpha. Melissa recognized the code phrase from her old case files. Still eliminating loose ends, Alexander. Like those 3 agents who disappeared after. Sonora? The effect on the tactical teams was immediate. They recognized a cleanup order when they heard one. Several moved toward the exits, while others raised weapons, creating a 3-way standoff between Reed's men, the Scorpion Kings, and the professional contractors. Another explosion rocked the perimeter. Martinez's voice boomed again. This is your final warning. We have tactical teams in position. Surrender now or we breach with lethal force. Your operation is compromised, Reed told Reeves coldly. Your men are unreliable. Time for professionals to handle this. Like hell. The tactical team leader stepped forward. We're not going down for this. Not getting cleaned up like those guys in Sonora. Melissa watched the tension rise, counting angles and distances. In the growing chaos, no one noticed her working at her restraints. The zip ties Reeves's men had used were professional grade, but they'd missed the ceramic blade hidden in her belt. Amateur mistake. The Phantom isn't the only one who kept files, she announced casually. Agent Martinez has copies of everything. Sonora, the diplomatic cover, the nuclear components, one phone call, and it all goes public. Reed's composed facade cracked slightly. You're bluffing. Am I? Melissa smiled. Check your secure channels. Notice anything missing? Like the routing codes for your shipments, the ones being uploaded to federal servers right now. Reeves grabbed Reed's arm. You promised us protection. Said we'd have immunity. Reed's security. Chief moved with professional efficiency. The suppressed shot dropped Reeves before he could finish speaking. The warehouse erupted in gunfire as the 3 factions turned on each other. Melissa used the chaos to make her move. The ceramic blade sliced through her restraints as Eric dove for cover behind her chair. Choose now, Eric, she said calmly, even as bullets whizzed past. Help me secure those nuclear components. You get immunity. Try to run. She shrugged. Well, you've seen how Reed handles loose ends. Outside, federal tactical teams began their breach. The warehouse had become a war zone of competing interests. Reed's professionals trying to secure the shipment, Scorpion Kings fighting for survival, and tactical contractors looking for escape routes. But they'd all forgotten the most important. A thing about hunting ghosts. Sometimes the most dangerous predator is the one you think you have trapped. Melissa moved through the chaos like a shadow, Eric covering her flank. The nuclear components were her priority, keeping them out of Reed's hands while federal teams breached, just like Sonora. But this time, she had what she needed, proof of the international conspiracy, proof of Reed's involvement, and witnesses ready to talk. The Phantom was loose, and the real hunting was about to begin. Melissa moved through the firefight with calculated precision, using the chaos as cover. Eric stayed close, following her lead as she navigated between shipping containers. His military training was showing, good situational awareness, proper tactical spacing. The nuclear components, she said, during a brief pause in the shooting. Where exactly? Storage Bay 3, Eric replied, checking his ammunition. Lead-lined containers, radiation warnings. But Reed's men are between us and... A burst of gunfire interrupted him as one of Reed's security teams spotted them. Melissa pulled Eric behind a concrete pillar, analyzing angles and positions. 3 professionals with tactical gear and suppressed weapons, former special forces based on their movement patterns. "Remember your force recon training," she said calmly. "What's the counter for a 3-man wedge formation?" Eric blinked, then understood. As Reed's men advanced, he and Melissa split up, using crossing lines of fire to break their coordinated approach. The Phantom's reputation hadn't been exaggerated. She dropped 2 operators with precise shots to their body armor, disabling without killing, while Eric forced the 3rd to retreat. "Nice work," Melissa acknowledged as they moved forward. Through the warehouse speakers, Agent Martinez announced the federal breach was beginning. Multiple explosion points creating chaos and confusion. Reed's commanding voice cut through the gunfire. "Secure those containers. Nothing else matters." "He's desperate," Melissa observed, leading Eric through a service corridor. "Nuclear components are just his cover story. There's something else in those containers, something worth killing." They reached a catwalk overlooking Storage Bay 3. Below, Reed's men were preparing to move the specialized containers, while remnants of the Scorpion Kings engaged in a running gun battle with the tactical contractors. Melissa's phone vibrated. A text from Martinez. "Satellite confirms unique thermal signature from containers. Not matching the nuclear profile." "Eric," she said quietly, "what color was the radiation warning symbol on those containers?" "Red and black. Standard..." He stopped, realization hitting. "Wait. Nuclear warnings are magenta and yellow." "Exactly." Melissa smiled grimly. "Reed's been playing everyone. Even his own buyers think they're getting weapons-grade nuclear materials, but he's shipping something else, something worth creating an elaborate cover story." A new explosion rocked the warehouse as federal tactical teams made their first entry. Reed's security forces responded with professional precision, while the remaining Scorpion King's members scattered. "Boss," one of Reed's operators called out. "Federal breach teams on 3 sides. We're running out of time." "Get those containers loaded," Reed ordered. "Use Protocol 7 if you have to." Melissa's expression hardened. "Protocol 7, just like Sonora." "What's Protocol 7?" Eric asked, ducking. As bullets sparked off the catwalk railing, "Thermite charges. Destroy everything rather than let it be captured." Melissa checked her ammunition. "That's how they buried the evidence last time. Burned it all, including their own men." Below, Reed's operators began planting charges while continuing to hold off federal teams. The warehouse had become a complex battlefield. Federal agents breaching from multiple points, Scorpion Kings fighting for survival, tactical contractors looking for escape routes, and Reed's professionals trying to protect their cargo. "Time to end this," Melissa said quietly. "Eric, I need you to create a distraction. Get their attention focused upward while I..." Movement caught her eye. One of Reed's men was opening a container, preparing to plant charges. For just a moment, Melissa saw inside, not nuclear components. Something else, something that made her curse softly. "Those containers," she said. "They're full of hard drives, servers, data storage." Understanding dawned on Eric's face. Information. They're moving information. Not just any information. Melissa's voice was grim. "Those are military-grade quantum encryption servers, black box technology. The kind used to store intelligence operations data, covert assets, black site locations." "Someone's stealing classified intelligence files," Eric whispered, "using nuclear components as cover." Another explosion rocked the building as federal teams breached the east wall. Through the chaos, Melissa spotted Reed heading for a secure exit protected by his remaining operators. "Choose now," she told Eric. Help me stop Reed. You get full immunity. Everything you did here gets classified as a sanctioned operation. Eric checked his weapon, then nodded. What's the play? First, we need to reach those servers before they trigger the thermite. Then... Melissa smiled, the expression sending chills down Eric's spine. Then we showed Reed why they called me the Phantom. Below, Reed's men had finished placing charges. Soon they would destroy evidence of one of the largest intelligence thefts in history. But they'd made one crucial mistake. They'd given the Phantom exactly what she needed: proof of an international conspiracy, proof of Reed's true operation, and a chance to finish what started in Sonora. Melissa moved to the catwalk's edge, her voice carrying that quiet authority that had made hardened criminals surrender rather than face her. Now, Eric, show me what Force Recon taught you about hunting predators. The Phantom was done playing defense. It was time to remind everyone why that nickname had haunted criminal nightmares for 9 years. Victoria and Eric moved along the catwalk with practiced efficiency, using the federal breach points as cover. Below, Reed's men were starting to trigger the thermite charges, preparing to destroy the intelligence servers. We've got 3 minutes. Once those charges start, Melissa said, checking angles. After that, the thermite burns hot enough to melt through the server casings. Sir, one of Reed's operators called out, federal teams have breached the East Corridor. Agent Martinez is leading personally. Reed's composed facade cracked. Trigger all charges. Nothing can fall into federal hands. He turned to his security chief. Prepare the backup protocol, like Helios. Melissa's eyes narrowed. Helios. That's the connection I missed. She keyed her hidden communicator. Martinez, are you receiving? Go ahead, Phantom. Agent Martinez's voice was steady despite the gunfire in the background. Reed's running the same operation as Helios. Remember that CIA server farm that got hit? The one where classified files disappeared right before a thermite accident. Through the chaos, Melissa could hear Martinez cursing. Son of a... He's not stealing random intelligence. He's building a complete database of covert operations. Assets, locations, protocols. Enough to compromise every intelligence agency in the Western world. Confirmed, Melissa said. Nuclear components were just covered. Nobody looks too closely at nuclear shipments. Too much paperwork. Too many agencies involved. Eric checked his ammunition. How do we stop them? The charges are sequenced, Melissa explained, moving into position. They have to trigger in. Order or the fail-safes kick in. Standard intelligence protocol. She smiled grimly. The same protocol I helped design. Below, Reed's men had started the sequence. The first thermite charge ignited with a brilliant flash, starting the countdown to total server destruction. Now, Melissa's command sent Eric into motion. They dropped from the catwalk onto shipping containers, using Reed's own tactical positioning against him. His men had created perfect cover positions for anyone attacking from ground level. They weren't prepared for threats from above. Melissa moved like her nickname, a ghost flowing between cover points. 2 of Reed's operators went down before. They realized the attack was coming from an unexpected angle. Eric proved his Force Recon training, providing precise covering fire that forced the remaining security team to retreat. The servers! Reed's voice carried real panic now. Protect those servers! But Melissa had reached the first row of containers. Her hands moved with practiced speed, disarming the thermite sequence she'd helped develop. Eric kept Reed's men pinned down while federal breach teams advanced from multiple directions. It's over, Alexander, Melissa called out, her voice carrying that quiet authority. Your entire operation is exposed. Helios, Sonora, all of it. You don't understand what you're dealing with. Reed's composure was gone. This goes higher than you can imagine. Governments, intelligence agencies, people who can make anyone disappear. You mean like you made those CIA analysts disappear in Helios? Melissa moved to the next set of charges. Or those NSA technicians. In Sonora, More federal teams breached the warehouse. Agent Martinez's voice boomed through tactical speakers. All units, secure those servers. Priority Alpha. Reed's remaining operators started to fall back, professionals recognizing a lost cause. But Reed himself seemed to snap. He charged toward the servers, pulling something from his jacket. "If I can't have the files," he snarled, "nobody can." Melissa recognized the device, a dead man's switch linked to emergency charges. She moved, without hesitation, trusting Eric to cover her flank. Her first shot caught Reed's arm, sending the switch flying. The second hit his tactical vest, driving him back. But Reed wasn't finished. He drew his sidearm with his offhand, firing wildly. "You have no idea what you're stopping. The power in those files, the secrets. That's your problem, Alexander." Melissa's voice was almost gentle as she closed the distance. "You see secrets as power. I see them as responsible." The final confrontation happened almost too fast to follow. Reed, despite his expensive suit and diplomatic credentials, proved he remembered his special forces training. He and Melissa moved in a lethal dance of close-quarter combat, each looking for the decisive advantage, but there was a reason they called her the Phantom. Reed never saw the final strike coming. One moment he was pressing his attack. The next, he was disarmed and on his knees, Melissa's gun pressed against his head. "Helios," she said softly. "Sonora. All those agents who disappeared. Talk fast, Alexander, before I decide you're too dangerous to take alive." Around them, federal teams secured the warehouse. The remaining Scorpion King's members surrendered while tactical contractors threw down their weapons. Eric kept guard as Agent Martinez approached, his tactical team scanning for remaining threats. "The servers are secure," Martinez reported. "Looks like we got to them in time. The intelligence files are intact." Melissa kept her weapon trained on Reed. "Almost too easy, wasn't it? Almost like someone wanted us to recover these specific servers." Reed's laughter held no humor. "Finally figured it out, didn't you? You're right, these servers were bait. The real files, the real operation." He smiled coldly. "You've got no idea what's coming." Melissa met Martinez's eyes. They both recognized the implications. This wasn't just about stolen intelligence anymore. Someone had used Reed's operation to distract from something bigger, something worth sacrificing an entire intelligence theft ring to hide. The Prescott mining warehouse had become a federal crime scene. Technical teams swarmed the server containers while tactical units secured the perimeter. Melissa watched them work from a makeshift command post, her mind processing patterns she might have missed. "The servers were a distraction," she told Martinez as they reviewed preliminary data. "Reed wanted us focused on the intelligence theft while something bigger moved into position." "Makes sense." Martinez pulled up satellite imagery on his tactical tablet. "We've got increased activity at 3 other sites along Canyon Road, all showing the same radiation signature we tracked here." Eric, now officially working with the federal team, studied the images. "Those are the properties the Scorpion Kings were forcing people to sell." "They needed the whole route," Melissa nodded. "Not for moving servers, for moving something else, something worth burning an entire intelligence operation to hide." Reed sat handcuffed nearby, his expensive suit now dirty and torn. But his earlier panic had been replaced by an unsettling calm. "You still don't see it, do you?" He smiled at Melissa. "All these years hunting ghosts, you never asked who really shut down your Sonora investigation, who had that kind of authority." "Deputy Director Wilson," Melissa replied. "He claimed national security concerns." "Wilson was a messenger," Reed laughed softly. "Just like I'm a messenger. There are larger forces at work, Phantom. Forces that make your federal badge look like a child's toy." A commotion at the perimeter drew their attention. A black SUV with diplomatic plates had arrived, accompanied by 2 more vehicles with government markers. "Right on time," Reed murmured. A man in an expensive suit emerged from the SUV, flanked by security. He moved with the confident stride of someone used to absolute authority. Melissa recognized him immediately. "Jonathan Blackwood," she said softly. "Deputy Director of National Intelligence." "Well," Martinez cursed under his breath, "this just got interesting." Blackwood was in charge of oversight for the Helios operation, Melissa corrected, watching Blackwood approach. "The one where those servers disappeared, the one where agents disappeared." Blackwood's security team spread out professionally as he reached the command post. His smile was practiced, political. "Agent Reynolds, quite a situation you've uncovered here. Unfortunately, this operation now falls under national security oversight. We'll take it from here." Melissa studied him carefully. "Will you? Like you took over Helios? Sonora?" Blackwood's smile didn't waver, but his eyes hardened. "Careful, Agent. Some questions are above your pay grade. Like why the Deputy Director of National Intelligence is personally interested in a biker gang's trafficking operation." Melissa kept her voice neutral. "Or why are radiation signatures showing up at multiple sites along Canyon Road?" "This is now a classified operation," Blackwood replied. "All evidence and prisoners will be transferred to federal custody, including Mr. Reed." Reed's earlier calm made sense now. He'd been waiting for this. Eric spoke up, his voice carrying military precision. "Those radiation signatures, they're moving. 3 convoys, all heading north toward the Canadian border." Blackwood's security team subtly shifted positions, hands moving closer to weapons. The tension in the command post ratcheted up. "Stand down, Agent," Blackwood ordered. "That's a direct command from the Office of National Intelligence." Melissa smiled, the expression sending chills through the room. "Here's the problem, Director. I've spent 9 years tracking this operation, watching patterns, connecting dots." She moved with deliberate calm, making Blackwood's security team nervous. "And now I know why Sonora was shut down, why Helios was buried, because someone high up in intelligence services is running their own operation, moving something so classified it's worth killing to protect. You have no idea what you're dealing with." Blackwood's political mask cracked slightly. The bigger picture is that American intelligence agents are dying," Melissa cut him off. "Disappeared, eliminated, buried in accidents. When they get too close, just like you planned for me in Sonora." Blackwood's hand moved toward his jacket. "That's enough. Security, take them into custody. All of them." But Melissa had been waiting for this. Her phone broadcast a pre-recorded message to every federal frequency. "Attention all units. Be advised Operation Chimera is now active. Authorization code Phantom 7 Delta." Through the warehouse windows, they could see tactical teams moving into new positions. Not Blackwood's security, but Melissa's people. The ones she'd spent 9 years placing carefully. "It's called having a longer game, Director," she said softly. "While you were watching for ghosts, I was building an army." Blackwood's face showed real fear now. "You can't. This operation is vital to national security. The material being moved is—" "What exactly?" Melissa's voice carried absolute authority. "Because in about 30 seconds, every federal agency in 3 states will be moving on those convoys. So talk fast, Director." "What are you really moving through Canyon Road?" The ghost had just changed the game. The question was, how far up did the conspiracy really go? Blackwood's security team maintained their positions, but Melissa could see the uncertainty in their stance. Professional operators recognized when a situation had shifted beyond their control. Those convoys, Melissa kept her voice calm while reviewing tactical feeds. "They're not just heading for the border. They're converging on specific coordinates." She tilted her head. "Care to explain why the Deputy Director of National Intelligence is coordinating with foreign buyers on American soil?" "You have no authority," Blackwood started, but Melissa cut him off. 3 teams of federal tactical units are moving to..." "Intercept," she announced, letting him see the live feeds. "Satellite coverage showing your convoy routes. And most importantly," she smiled coldly, "complete records of every operation you've buried." "Helios, Sonora, all of it?" Eric approached with new data on his tablet. "Agent, we've got thermal imaging from the convoy loads, not matching any known radiation profile." "Because it's not nuclear material," Melissa said, watching Blackwood's reaction. "Is it, Director? That was just cover for what you're really moving. Something worth compromising national intelligence for." Blackwood's political mask cracked further. "You don't understand. These materials, they're beyond classified, beyond any normal protocol." "Sir," one of his security team reported urgently, "federal units have blocked all access routes to Highway 17. The convoys are being boxed in." Melissa's phone buzzed. Martinez coordinating the intercept. "Teams in position. Convoy leaders requesting direct orders from Blackwood. They're nervous." "Talk fast, Director," Melissa advised, as she watched panic spread across Blackwood's face. "Because in about 5 minutes, those convoys hit our roadblocks, and then everyone sees what you're really transporting." "You can't stop this." Blackwood's voice held a desperate authority. "These shipments are vital to national security, to relationships with our allies." "Allies?" Melissa stepped closer, making his security team tense. "Like the buyers in Helios, the ones who disappeared after getting what they wanted?" Eric checked another tactical feed. "Agent, Convoy 2 is attempting to divert onto county roads. Local units moving to intercept." Blackwood grabbed for his phone, but Melissa was faster. "Let me guess. Calling to authorize lethal force, just like Sonora." She held up her own. Yvonne showing him the signal jammer. "No more buried operations, Director. No more disappeared agents." "You don't have the authority," Blackwood began, but Melissa's laugh cut him off. "I have something better than authority," she said softly. "I have proof. Proof of every operation you've compromised, every agent you've sacrificed, every deal you've made with foreign intelligence services." She nodded to Eric. "Show him." Eric displayed his tablet, showing Blackwood's surveillance photos, financial records, communication logs, 9 years of carefully gathered evidence. "You've been playing chess," Melissa explained. "I've been playing a longer game. Every site you've used, every route you've established, every contact you've made. I've been watching, waiting, building the case that would expose everything." Blackwood's security team looked increasingly uncertain. These were professional operators, trained to protect government officials. But they weren't trained for this, for discovering their boss was compromising national security. "Sir," the team leader said carefully, "we need to know. Are these shipments authorized by the Intelligence Committee?" "Stand down," Blackwood ordered, but his voice shook slightly. Melissa pressed her advantage. "Tell them, Director. Tell them about the real buyers, the ones who've been purchasing classified intelligence, acquiring restricted materials, eliminating witnesses." "Agent," Eric called urgently. "Convoy 3 is stopped. They're security teams. They're surrendering to federal units." Blackwood moved with desperate speed, drawing a concealed weapon. But Melissa had been waiting for this too. She countered with practiced efficiency, disarming him before his own security could react. "That's the problem with corrupt officials," she said, as Blackwood went to his knees, clutching his injured hand. "They always think they're the smartest. Ones in the room always think they're untouchable." Her phone buzzed again, Martinez updating. "All convoys contained. You need to see what they're carrying. This goes deeper than we thought." Melissa kept Blackwood covered while his security team, now fully aware of the situation, secured him properly. "Now," she said softly, letting him see the ghost that had haunted criminal nightmares, "let's talk about what you're really moving through my territory and who you're really working for." The game had changed. The real operation was about to be exposed, and Blackwood was about to learn why they called her the Phantom. Because once she started hunting, nowhere was safe to hide. The first images from the intercepted convoys made even Melissa pause. The trucks hadn't been carrying weapons or nuclear materials. The cargo was something far more dangerous. Biological containment units, Eric reported, reviewing the manifest. Experimental pathogens, vaccine prototypes, gene therapy compounds. Everything needed to build a next-generation biological weapons program. Blackwood, now securely restrained, laughed bitterly. You have no idea what you've done. The deals in place, the arrangements with foreign intelligence services. You mean like these? Melissa displayed intercepted communications on the command post screens. Arrangements with rogue intelligence agencies, sales of classified research, transfer of military technology to foreign powers. She studied Blackwood's reaction. All authorized under your security clearance. Martinez's voice crackled through the tactical comms. Phantom, you need to see this. Convoy 3 was carrying personnel files, lists of covert operatives, safe house locations, active operation details. He wasn't just selling technology, Melissa realized, watching Blackwood's expression. He was selling out our entire intelligence network. Every agent, every operation, every security protocol. You think too small, Blackwood sneered. This is bigger than intelligence, bigger than national security. This is about the future of global power. Eric approached with new data. Agent, we're tracking multiple unauthorized satellite uplinks. Someone's activated emergency protocols at the other Canyon Road sites. Melissa smiled coldly. Your buyers are getting nervous, Director, realizing their investment is about to be exposed. You have no idea who you're dealing with. Blackwood's voice held real fear now. These people, they don't just eliminate witnesses, they erase entire operations, make whole agencies disappear, like they tried to do in Sonora. Melissa moved closer, letting him see the predator behind her calm exterior. Tell me, Director, who really ordered my investigation shut down? Who has enough authority to bury evidence of international technology theft? Before Blackwood could respond, Eric called out urgently, multiple vehicles approaching from the north. Diplomatic plates, but the thermal signatures, they're carrying military-grade equipment. Your real masters arriving? Melissa asked Blackwood. The ones who've been buying America's military secrets? Blackwood's face went pale. You don't understand. They'll kill everyone, clean the whole operation, just like Helios. No, Melissa's voice carried absolute certainty. They won't. She keyed her tactical comms. All units, this is the Phantom. Execute Operation Shadow Protocol. Around the warehouse perimeter, hidden federal teams emerged from concealed positions. Not regular tactical units, but specialized operators. The ones Melissa had spent years recruiting and positioning. See, Director, she explained calmly, while you were selling out our intelligence network, I was building my own. Every agent you threatened, every operator you tried to silence, I gave them a new purpose, a way to fight back. Eric checked the tactical feeds. Foreign teams entering our containment zone, 8 vehicles, multiple armed operators. Let them come, Melissa said softly. Let them see what happens when they push American operatives too far, when they try to buy and sell our people like commodities. Blackwood struggled against his restraints. You don't have the authority. These are foreign intelligence services. Diplomatic immunity. Diplomatic immunity doesn't cover treason, Melissa cut him off. Doesn't protect people who sell out their own country. She turned to the tactical screens, watching the approaching vehicles. And it definitely doesn't shield foreign agents conducting hostile operations on American soil. Through the command post windows, they could see the foreign teams taking positions, professional operators used to working with impunity under diplomatic cover. But they weren't prepared for what awaited them. The Phantom had spent 9 years building this moment, creating a force capable of standing against corrupt officials and foreign intelligence services. Now it was time to show them why some predators should never be provoked. Eric, Melissa ordered calmly, show them what happens when they hunt on our ground. The real operation was about to begin, and the Phantom was done playing defense. The foreign teams made their first mistake immediately, treating this like a standard deniable operation. Their vehicles approached in tactical formation, operators, ready to use diplomatic immunity as cover. They weren't expecting Melissa's people, multiple teams of seasoned agents with personal grudges against those who'd betrayed them. Identify their tactical channels yet? Melissa asked, watching through command post windows. Yes, ma'am, Eric replied. Same frequencies they used in Helios. She smiled coldly. Patch me in. The foreign operator tactical channel crackled with her voice. Attention, unauthorized foreign intelligence teams. This is Federal Agent Melissa Reynolds. You are conducting hostile operations on American soil. Stand down or face immediate response. Their reaction was predictable, accelerating their approach, weapons ready, standard protocol when diplomatic cover was threatened. They're not stopping, Blackwood warned, almost desperately. You don't understand what they're capable of. No, Melissa corrected calmly. They don't understand what we're capable of. She keyed her tactical comms. All units, execute containment protocol. The foreign team's formation suddenly collapsed as hidden. Federal operators emerged from pre-positioned sites. Not regular tactical units, but specialized teams Melissa had assembled over years. Operators who'd survived previous cleanup attempts, who understood exactly what they were fighting. Sir, one of the foreign team leaders called urgently through. The tactical channel, we're boxed in. These aren't standard federal units. Because we're not standard federal units, Melissa replied through their comms. We're the ones you tried to eliminate. The ones who survived Helios, Sonora, all your other cleanup operations. Eric monitored the tactical feeds as Melissa's team systematically isolated and contained the foreign operators. Professional efficiency against professional efficiency. But Melissa's people had the advantage of preparation and righteous anger. Agent, Eric called out, foreign teams are receiving new orders. Their diplomatic vehicles are powering up some kind of electronic warfare suite. Expected that. Melissa nodded to a hidden signal team. They activated pre-positioned jammers, cutting off the foreign team's advanced electronics. Another layer of preparation was revealed. Blackwood watched with growing horror as his backup plan collapsed. This is impossible. These protocols, this level of coordination, what's impossible, Melissa cut him off, is thinking you could keep selling out American agents without consequences, that we wouldn't find each other, organize, prepare to fight back. Through the command post windows, they could see the foreign teams realizing their situation. Diplomatic immunity meant nothing here. Their advanced technology was neutralized. They were facing opponents who'd studied their tactics, who knew their protocols, who'd prepared specifically to counter them. Last chance, Melissa announced on their tactical channel. Surrender now, or discover why they call me the Phantom. Eric checked the feeds. Foreign teams are deploying specialized units, some kind of counterintelligence operators. Good. Melissa's smile was predatory. Show them what a real counterintelligence operation looks like. Her hidden teams moved with lethal precision, using everything they'd learned from surviving previous encounters. The foreign operators found themselves systematically isolated, their tactical advantages neutralized, their diplomatic cover meaningless. This is what happens, Melissa told Blackwood as they watched. When you betray your own people, when you sell them out to foreign powers, they don't just disappear. They learn, adapt, and come back stronger. Agent, Eric reported urgently. Foreign. Teams are attempting to trigger some kind of fail-safe, remote detonation signals. Blocked, Melissa assured him. We studied their protocols after Helios. No more convenient explosions to cover their tracks. The foreign team's tactical channel erupted with urgent communications as they realized the trap they were in. These weren't regular federal agents they could intimidate with diplomatic credentials. These were survivors, operators who'd faced their cleanup teams before and lived to fight back. "Sir," one of the foreign commanders called desperately, "we need authorization for maximum force." "Your authorization is meaningless here," Melissa replied through their comms. "This isn't a diplomatic operation anymore. This is judgment." Around the warehouse perimeter, her teams continued their systematic containment. Each foreign operator faced the consequences of their previous actions. The agents they'd tried to eliminate now returned with righteous purpose. The Phantom's hunt was reaching its climax, and the hunters were about to become the hunted. "Two more diplomatic vehicles approaching from the east," Eric reported. "Different configuration. Looks like command and control units." Melissa nodded. "They're senior officers arriving to take control, right on schedule." She turned to Blackwood. "Want to tell me who's really in charge of your operation? Who has the authority to deploy foreign intelligence teams on American soil?" Blackwood's earlier arrogance had vanished, replaced by growing fear. "You don't understand. These people, they control everything. Intelligence services, military contracts, international security protocols." "The Syndicate," Eric said quietly, showing Melissa his tablet. "Agent, I'm finding references in the convoy files. Some kind of international oversight group operating above normal intelligence channels." Melissa studied the data. "Not oversight. Infiltration. Using corrupt officials like Blackwood to steal classified technology. Compromise security networks. Eliminate anyone who gets too close." "They're not going to stop," Blackwood warned. "The Syndicate doesn't leave loose ends. They'll burn everything, kill everyone, like they tried in Helios." "Like Sonora," Melissa's voice carried deadly calm. "That's the problem with operating in the shadows, Director. Sometimes you find real ghosts." The foreign tactical channel erupted with new activity as the command vehicles arrived. Eric monitored their communications. Multiple authorization. Codes being transmitted. They're trying to activate some kind of kill switch in the convoy materials. "Won't work," Melissa said confidently. "We've already isolated the biological containment cores. No remote access, no self-destruct protocols." She smiled at Blackwood's surprise. "We learned from Helios. No more convenient accidents to cover." "Your tracks." Through the command post windows, they could see the foreign teams regrouping around their newly arrived leadership, professional operators adjusting tactics, preparing for a more coordinated assault. "Sir," Eric called urgently, "the command vehicles are broadcasting on restricted frequencies, same pattern as the Sonora operation." Melissa's expression hardened. "Show me." The tactical screen displayed communication patterns that confirmed her suspicions. "These aren't just foreign intelligence services," she explained. "This is who really shut down my investigation, the ones Blackwood really works for, the Syndicate." "They're here personally," Eric understood. "Of course they are." Melissa checked her tactical feeds. "We've got their stolen technology, their compromised agents, proof of their entire operation. They have to try to contain this." Blackwood struggled against his restraints. "You don't understand what you're dealing with. The Syndicate controls everything. Intelligence services, military operations, international security." "No," Melissa cut him off. "They control people like you, corrupt officials willing to sell out their own country. But they've never faced people like us, the ones who survived their cleanup operations, the ones who learned to hunt back." The foreign tactical channel crackled with a new voice, cultured, authoritative, used to absolute obedience. "Phantom, you've caused quite a problem. Perhaps we should discuss terms." "Director Veronica Shaw," Melissa replied calmly. "Still hiding behind diplomatic immunity. Or did you bring your network teams this time, like Helios?" A pause on the channel then. "You seem well informed. I had 9 years to study your operation, to track your patterns, document your crimes, build a case that goes all the way to the top. Melissa's voice carried absolute certainty. Would you like to know what else I found? What other evidence I've accumulated about the syndicate? Another pause. You're bluffing. No one can penetrate our security. Check your secure channels, Melissa suggested. Notice anything missing? 9 years of classified communications, operational plans, financial transfers. Amazing what you can access when you know where to look. Eric monitored the foreign team's reaction. They're receiving new data, Agent. Something's got them spooked. That would be the files I just transmitted to every major intelligence agency in the world, Melissa explained. Proof of the syndicate's existence, their operations, their crimes. No more shadows to hide in. Through the command post windows, they could see the foreign operator's professional facade cracking. Even elite teams weren't prepared for this level of exposure. You've just started a war. Shaw's voice carried real fear now. No, Melissa corrected. I've just finished one. The war you've been waging against your own agents, your own security services. She smiled coldly. Welcome to the Phantom's hunting ground, Director. Time to face judgment. The command vehicle's heavily tinted windows finally opened, revealing the true face of the syndicate. 3 figures emerged, not the military operators or intelligence agents Melissa's team had been containing, but elegant men and women in expensive suits, people used to wield power from comfortable offices, not tactical situations. Directors Shaw, Harrington, and Chen. Melissa identified them through the command post window. The ones who really control international intelligence operations. The ones who ordered Sonora buried. Eric checked his tactical feeds. Agent, we're getting responses from intelligence agencies worldwide. Your evidence dump is causing chaos. In every major capital. Of course it is. Melissa smiled coldly. 9 years of classified syndicate operations suddenly exposed. Every corrupt official, every compromised agent, every illegal operation, all public now. Blackwood watched the syndicate directors approach with growing dread. They'll kill everyone, burn everything. They can't afford witnesses. That's your mistake, Director. Melissa cut him off. Still thinking like they do, still believing in their shadows. She keyed her tactical comms. All units, prepare to receive syndicate leadership. The 3 directors walked with careful precision. Through the contained foreign operators, their expensive shoes incongruous on the warehouse's concrete floor. Shaw, their apparent leader, maintained her diplomatic facade. Agent Reynolds, she greeted smoothly. I must protest this unprecedented breach of diplomatic protocol. Save it, Melissa interrupted. Your diplomatic cover is blown. Right now, every intelligence agency in the world is reviewing proof of your existence. The syndicate isn't a whispered rumor anymore. Harrington stepped forward, his cultured voice carrying subtle threat. You have no idea what you've done, the careful balance we maintain. You mean the balance of power you've stolen? Melissa's voice could have frozen flame. Using people. Like Blackwood to compromise security services? Eliminating agents who get too close? We maintain order, Chen insisted. Control the flow of intelligence. Prevent destructive conflicts. By selling classified technology to the highest bidder? Eric displayed intercepts on the tactical screen. By trading military secrets between nations? Shaw's diplomatic mask cracked slightly. Agent, surely we can discuss this reasonably. Your evidence, while concerning, could be explained like you explained Helios. Melissa moved with predatory grace, making the director step back. Like Sonora, no more explanations, no more shadows to hide in. Through the command post windows, they could see more federal units arriving, not regular tactical teams, but specialized units responding to Melissa's evidence release. The kind of operators who handled major international incidents. It's over, Melissa told the directors. Your network is exposed. Your corrupt officials are being arrested worldwide. Your carefully constructed shadow empire is falling apart in real time. You don't understand what you're unleashing. Shaw's voice held real fear now. The chaos when these secrets emerge. I understand perfectly. Melissa's smile was terrifying in its calm. I understand you've spent decades manipulating intelligence services, compromising agents, eliminating anyone who threatened your power. Now those same agents are coming for you. Eric monitored global communications. Agent, we're getting confirmation. Intelligence. Agencies worldwide are moving on syndicate facilities. Arrests being made at the highest levels. Impossible, Harrington whispered. Our security protocols were compromised the moment you tried to eliminate me in Sonora, Melissa explained. You see, that's the problem with people who think they're untouchable. They never look for ghosts in their own shadows. The syndicate members' composure finally shattered as they realized the true scope of their situation. Melissa hadn't just exposed their operation, she'd systematically dismantled their entire power structure. Your choice is simple, she told them quietly. Surrender now. Provide evidence against your entire network, and maybe you survive what's coming. Or she shrugged. Find out why they call me the Phantom. Shaw made a desperate gesture to her contained operators. Maximum force. Eliminate everyone. But the foreign teams didn't move. They'd seen Melissa's evidence and understood what the syndicate really was. Professional operators faced proof they'd been working for criminals who manipulated intelligence services for profit. They won't help you, Melissa said softly. No one will. Welcome to judgment, directors. The ghosts you created are coming, home to haunt you. The syndicate's reign was ending, and the Phantom's hunt was almost complete. The syndicate directors' composed facades had crumbled, replaced by the desperate calculation of cornered predators. Melissa watched them process their situation, noting every micro-expression, every tell that might telegraph their next move. Agent, Eric reported urgently. Multiple high-level communications being detected. The syndicate is activating some kind of emergency protocol. Of course they are. Melissa's voice remained calm. Show me! The tactical screens displayed a surge of encrypted transmissions. Shaw pulled out a satellite phone, her hands shaking slightly as she input commands. Last chance, Phantom, she said, trying to reclaim her authoritative tone. You have no idea what fail-safes we've built into the global intelligence network. What chaos can we unleash? You mean like Operation Blackout? Melissa's question made all three directors freeze. Your emergency protocol to crash intelligence networks worldwide. Interesting plan. Shame about the back door we found in the encoding. Harrington's diplomatic mask cracked completely. Impossible! Those systems are quantum encrypted. By the same technology you were stealing, Melissa nodded to Eric, who displayed more tactical data. The technology we've been studying for 9 years. Amazing what you can learn when you know where to look. Through the command post windows, they could see the contained foreign operators watching the exchange intently, professional agents recognizing the shift in power dynamics. Sir, Eric called out, checking new feeds. Syndicate facilities worldwide are going into lockdown. They're trying to purge their systems. Too late, Melissa said coldly. The evidence is already spreading. Every intelligence agency, every law enforcement organization, every military command structure, they're all seeing exactly who's been manipulating them. Chen made a subtle hand gesture to his security team. Then perhaps it's time for more direct measures. I wouldn't, Melissa advised quietly. Your operators have already seen the evidence. They know what you really are now. How many agents you've sacrificed. How many operations you've compromised for profit. She smiled at the foreign teams. Isn't that right? The professional operators remained disciplined, but their stance had changed. Men and women trained to follow orders now faced proof their leaders were criminals who'd manipulated intelligence services for personal gain. Shaw's satellite phone chirped. Her face went ash-white as she read the message. No, this is impossible. Your Swiss accounts? Melissa asked pleasantly. Amazing how quickly banks cooperate when presented with evidence of international criminal conspiracy. Your emergency funds are being frozen as we speak. Harrington grabbed Shaw's arm. The containment sites, if we can reach, already compromised, Eric reported, displaying more tactical feeds. Federal teams are moving on syndicate facilities across 3 continents. Your backup plans are falling apart in real time. Melissa watched the director's composure disintegrate as decades of careful manipulation collapsed around them. You built your power on shadows, she told them quietly. Use them to hide your operations. Eliminate threats, maintain control, but shadows work both ways. Sometimes they hide the hunters, not just the hunted. Through her tactical comms, Martinez's voice reported, Phantom, we've got confirmation. Syndicate leadership worldwide is being taken into custody. Their network is exposed. You've doomed us all, Shaw snarled, desperation replacing her diplomatic tone. The secrets we contain, the operations we control, releasing them will destroy the balance of power. The balance you manufactured, Melissa's voice carried deadly calm. The one you maintained by selling military secrets, compromising agents, eliminating anyone who threatened your control. Eric monitored global communications. Agent, intelligence agencies worldwide are coordinating the response. They're shutting down syndicate operations, securing compromised facilities. Your choice is simple, Melissa told the directors. Surrender now. Provide evidence against your entire network. Face justice in multiple jurisdictions, or, she shrugged, find out what happens when every intelligence service you've manipulated decides to hunt you. Shaw made one final desperate play. She pulled a small device from her jacket. Kill codes, she announced, embedded in every major intelligence network. One signal and the device clattered from her hand, disabled by a precise shot from Eric. Melissa hadn't even seen the young operator draw his weapon. Nice shot, she acknowledged, and excellent trigger discipline, hitting the transmitter housing without damaging the circuitry. Force recon training, ma'am, Eric replied professionally. Plus, I've spent the last hour studying syndicate equipment signatures. Their fail-safe devices all have the same weak point. The directors stared at their fallen device, their last desperate gambit neutralized with surgical precision. Around them, their contained foreign operators began formally surrendering to Melissa's teams. You see, Melissa explained almost gently, that's the difference between us. You spent decades building power through manipulation and fear. I spent 9 years building something stronger, a network of professionals who understand real loyalty, who remembers what it means to serve justice, not profit. Through the command post windows, they could see more federal units arriving, specialized teams coordinating with international task forces, preparing to take the syndicate leadership into custody. It's over, Melissa told them quietly. Your shadow empire is exposed. Your corrupt officials are being arrested worldwide. Your carefully constructed network is being dismantled piece by piece. Shaw's face showed pure hatred now. You have no idea what you've done, the chaos you've unleashed. Actually, I do, Melissa smiled coldly. I understand exactly what happens when decades of corruption are exposed, when compromised agents realize they've been manipulated, when professional operators discover they've been working for criminals. Eric monitored tactical feeds showing the global response. Agent, intelligence agencies are coordinating custody arrangements. Multiple jurisdictions want to prosecute. Syndicate leadership, of course they do. Melissa watched the directors wrestle with their collapsing reality. Amazing how quickly loyalty disappears when the shadows are stripped away. When people see exactly who they've been serving. The warehouse had become a focal point of international justice. Melissa's 9-year hunt was ending not with a spectacular firefight, but with the systematic dismantling of a corrupt power structure. Agent, Eric reported, checking new data. We're getting preliminary numbers. Over 300 corrupt officials were identified, thousands of compromised operations exposed, dozens of eliminated agents now confirmed as syndicate targets. Send everything to the International Task Force, Melissa ordered. Let every intelligence service see exactly how they've been manipulated, how many of their people were sacrificed for syndicate profits. The directors stood in defeated silence as federal teams moved to take them into custody. Their carefully constructed world of shadows and manipulation had been systematically exposed and dismantled by the very type of operator they'd tried to eliminate, a ghost who'd learned to hunt back. The Phantom's mission was almost complete, but Melissa knew from experience that the most dangerous predators were the ones with nothing left to lose. The Syndicate's reign was ending, but the final confrontation was still to come. The warehouse erupted in chaos as Shaw made her final desperate move. Despite being in custody, the Syndicate leader had one last card to play. She triggered a hidden device in her watch, and suddenly emergency protocols activated across all communication channels. "Agent!" Eric called urgently. "Multiple systems going dark, some kind of coordinated cyber attack." "Their dead hand protocol," Melissa explained calmly, watching security systems crash around them. The Syndicate's ultimate failsafe, designed to create enough chaos to cover their escape. Through the command post windows, they could see the effects spreading. Security cameras failed, communication networks crashed, even the federal tactical team's encrypted channels went silent. "You should have taken the deal," Shaw sneered, her composed facade returning. "Now everything burns, just like Sonora." But Melissa smiled, the expression sending chills through the room. "You really should have checked who designed your emergency protocols. After Sonora, we knew you'd try something like this." Eric worked his console with practiced efficiency. "Backup systems engaging, Agent. Everything exactly where you said it would be." The Syndicate members watched in growing horror as their failsafe turned against them. Instead of crashing systems, their protocol was now exposing hidden networks, revealing secret communications, laying bare decades of carefully concealed operations. 9 years, Melissa explained quietly. 9 years studying your patterns, your protocols, your failsafes. Did you really think we wouldn't be ready for this? Harrington lunged for Eric's console, but the young operator moved with military precision. The Syndicate member found himself face down, professionally restrained before he could reach the equipment. "Force recon training, sir," Eric explained professionally, plus some extra lessons from the Phantom. Through the tactical feeds that remained active, they could see the global impact of the Syndicate's desperate gambit. But instead of creating covering chaos, their dead hand protocol was exposing everything. "Agent!" Martinez's voice crackled through a secured channel. "Syndicate facilities worldwide are going dark, but our embedded systems are tracking everything. Their entire shadow network is lighting up." Melissa nodded to Eric. "Show them." The tactical screens displayed a cascade of data, hidden Syndicate operations being exposed, secret facilities revealed, decades of carefully concealed communications suddenly laid bare. "You see," Melissa told the devastated Syndicate members, "we didn't just study your protocols, we rebuilt them. Every fail-safe, every emergency system, every last-ditch option. We turned them all into backdoors." Chen struggled against his restraints. "Impossible! Our systems are quantum encrypted." "By the same technology you were stealing." Melissa's smile was predatory. "The technology we've been studying for 9 years. Amazing what you can learn when you know where to look." Shaw's composure finally shattered completely. "Do you have any idea what you've done? The chaos this will cause. Intelligence services worldwide will be compromised." "No," Melissa corrected, coldly. Intelligence services worldwide will be cleaned. Every corrupt official was exposed. Every compromised operation was revealed. Every criminal conspiracy laid bare. Eric monitored the expanding cascade of revelations. Agent, we're getting reports from multiple agencies. Syndicate sleeper agents being identified, hidden accounts exposed, black operations revealed. The shadows are burning away, Melissa told the syndicate leaders. Everything you built, everything you manipulated, everything you killed to protect, all of it is exposed to the light. Through the command post windows, they could see federal tactical teams securing the perimeter. But these weren't regular units anymore. These were specialized operators responding to international protocols, preparing to take custody of the architects of a global conspiracy. Your choice now is simple, Melissa explained to the defeated syndicate members. Cooperate fully. Tell us everything about your operations, your networks, your hidden protocols, or, she shrugged, face justice in every jurisdiction you've corrupted. Shaw made one last attempt at authority. You don't have the right. We maintained order, controlled the flow of intelligence, prevented what? Melissa's voice could have frozen flame. Prevented justice, prevented accountability, prevented the truth about your crimes from coming to light. Eric reported more incoming data. Agent, intelligence agencies worldwide are coordinating the response. They're moving to secure exposed syndicate facilities, arrest identified operatives. You've destroyed decades of careful balance, Harrington protested weakly. The chaos when these secrets emerge. The balance you maintained through murder, Melissa cut him off. Through betrayal. Through sacrificing loyal agents for profit. She moved closer, letting them see the ghost that had haunted criminal nightmares. That balance deserved to be destroyed. The syndicate members watched their carefully constructed world collapse in real time. Every safeguard they'd created, every protocol they'd established, every fail-safe they'd planned, all of it turned against them by the very type of operator they'd tried to eliminate. "Sir," Eric called out, checking tactical feeds. "International task force units are on final approach. Multiple agencies coordinating custody protocols." Melissa nodded, watching the syndicate leaders wrestle with their new reality. Time to face real justice, gentlemen. Not the shadow games you're used to playing, but actual accountability for your crimes. Through the tactical channels that remained active, they could hear the coordinated response of intelligence services worldwide. Agencies that had been manipulated and corrupted for decades were now working together to dismantle the syndicates. Shadow Empire, one last chance, Melissa told them quietly. Start talking now. Tell us everything about your operations, and maybe you survive what's coming. Otherwise, she smiled coldly. Well, I hear some of your former assets are very interested in having private conversations about past operations. The syndicate members' faces showed real fear now. They knew exactly what happened to exposed manipulators in the intelligence world. How quickly loyalty turned to vengeance when decades of corruption were revealed. The Phantom's hunt is almost over, Melissa announced, watching international units approach the warehouse. The only question is whether you face justice through official channels, or she let the threat hang in the air. The Shadow Empire was falling, and its architects were about to discover why some predators should never be provoked. The International Task Force arrived with precision that impressed even Melissa. Representatives from a dozen intelligence agencies, each with personal reasons to want the syndicate brought to justice, each with scores to settle for murdered agents and compromised operations. Quite a reunion, Melissa observed as familiar. Faces emerged from tactical vehicles, survivors from Helios, Sonora, every operation where the syndicate tried to eliminate witnesses. Eric monitored the approaching teams. Agent, I'm counting operators from CIA, FBI, Interpol, MI6, Mossad, multiple agencies coordinating custody protocols. Of course, Melissa smiled coldly at the syndicate members. You didn't just corrupt American intelligence. You manipulated every major service. Now they all want their pound of flesh. Shaw watched the approaching operators with growing dread. You don't understand what you're unleashing. The secrets we protected, the balance we maintained. You mean the secrets you sold? Melissa cut her off. The balance you maintained through murder. Amazing how quickly your diplomatic tone vanishes when real justice approaches. Through the command post windows, they could see the international teams deploying with professional efficiency. These weren't regular operators. These were the elite of global intelligence services, the ones who handled the most sensitive operations. Agent, Eric reported urgently, we're getting new data from exposed syndicate systems. Hidden facilities, black sites, unofficial detention centers. Send everything to the task force, Melissa ordered. Let every agency see exactly how deep the corruption went, how many of their people were sacrificed for syndicate profits. Chen made one last desperate attempt at negotiation. We can still contain this. Make arrangements. Your evidence disappears. Your people get protection, like the protection you offered in Sonora. Melissa's voice could have frozen flame. The same protection that got agents killed, that buried evidence of your crimes? The international teams entered with coordinated precision. Melissa recognized many of the operators, survivors like her, ones who'd faced syndicate cleanup teams and lived to fight back. Jordan, she greeted the CIA team leader. Still have that scar from Helios? Among others, Jordan replied, his voice carrying cold authority. Been waiting a long time for this. Phantom. The syndicate members watched their worst nightmare unfold as operators from multiple agencies approached. Men and women they'd tried to eliminate now returned with official sanction and righteous purpose. Your choice is simple, Melissa told. Them. Cooperate fully with every agency here, reveal everything about your operations, and maybe you face justice in civilized jurisdictions. Resist, she nodded to the assembled operators. Well, I hear some countries still have very medieval approaches to dealing with traitors. Eric monitored the expanding global response. Agent, we're getting reports worldwide. Syndicate facilities being secured. Sleeper agents arrested. Hidden accounts frozen. The shadows are burning away. Everything you built, Melissa explained to the defeated syndicate members, everything you killed to protect, everything you manipulated, all of it is exposed to the light. Through secure channels, intelligence services coordinated the dismantling of the syndicate's shadow empire. Decades of careful manipulation and hidden control were crumbling in real time. You've destroyed everything, Chen protested weakly. The careful balance of power. The balance you maintained through corruption. Jordan's voice carried years of controlled anger. Through betrayal, through sacrificing loyal agents for profit. Melissa watched the international teams prepare to take custody. Each agency had its own charges to file, its own justice to pursue. The syndicate leaders would face accountability in multiple jurisdictions. Agent, Eric called out, checking tactical feeds. More syndicate facilities going dark worldwide, but our embedded systems are tracking everything. Their entire shadow network is exposed. Show them, Melissa ordered. The tactical screens displayed the cascade of revelations, hidden operations exposed, secret facilities revealed, decades of carefully concealed communications laid bare for every intelligence service to examine. You see, Melissa told the syndicate members, we didn't just study your networks, we rebuilt them. Every fail-safe, every protocol, every emergency system, we turned them all into back doors. Shaw's face showed pure hatred now. You have no idea what you've done. The chaos when these secrets emerge. Actually, I do, Melissa smiled coldly. I understand exactly what happens when decades of corruption are exposed, when compromised agents realize they've been manipulated, when professional operators discover they've been working for criminals. The international teams moved with practiced efficiency, securing the syndicate members for transport. Each operator carried personal motivation, colleagues lost to syndicate cleanup operations, careers destroyed by their manipulation, lives shattered by their corruption. The Phantom's hunt is ending, Melissa announced, watching justice approach. But your trials are just beginning. Every agency here has charges to file. Every service has scores to settle. Through the command post windows, they could see more tactical teams arriving. The warehouse had become a focal point of international accountability, where decades of shadow manipulation finally faced the light. Agent, Eric reported, monitoring global communications. Intelligence services worldwide are coordinating response. Hidden syndicate operations being exposed on every continent. Melissa nodded, watching the architects of so much corruption face real consequences. Prepare them for transport. Each agency gets their chance at justice. Each service gets answers about their lost operators. The syndicate members' carefully constructed world was collapsing completely. Their shadow empire exposed, their manipulation revealed, their power stripped away by the very type of operator they'd tried to eliminate. The Phantom's mission was reaching its end, but the impact would echo through intelligence services worldwide as decades of corruption finally faced the light of justice. Sunrise painted Arizona's mountains gold as Melissa stood on the warehouse loading dock, watching the international teams prepare for transport. The syndicate members were being separated, each senior leader headed to a different jurisdiction to face justice for specific crimes. "Final count?" she asked, turning to Eric. 312 syndicate facilities exposed worldwide, he reported, checking his tablet. Over 2,000 compromised agents identified, countless operations revealed. And that's just the beginning. Martinez added, joining them. Intelligence services worldwide are still digging through the evidence, finding connections we never imagined. Melissa nodded, watching Shaw being loaded into an armored transport. They built their power on shadows, used them to hide their manipulation, their crimes, their control over global intelligence. But shadows work both ways, Eric understood. Sometimes they hide the hunters, not just the hunted. Jordan approached from his CIA tactical team. Phantom, the Helios facility is secure. Found evidence of everything. The cleanup operations, the eliminated agents, the classified sales. Send copies to every agency, Melissa ordered. Let them all see how deep the corruption went. How many of their people were sacrificed for syndicate profits. Through the morning mist, more tactical vehicles arrived, each international team preparing to transport their prisoners, their evidence, their piece of the dismantled shadow empire. "Agent," Eric called out, monitoring global communications. "We're getting updates from multiple agencies. Syndicate sleeper agents being arrested, hidden accounts frozen, black operations exposed." "The dominoes are falling," Martinez observed. "Every corrupt official, every compromised agent, every hidden operation, all of it coming to light." Melissa watched Harrington being transferred to Interpol custody. The former syndicate members' diplomatic facade had crumbled completely, replaced by the fear of someone facing real consequences. "You know what happens next," Melissa told him quietly. "Every agency you manipulated, every service you corrupted, they all want answers about their lost agents, their compromised operations, their betrayed trust. You've destroyed everything," Harrington protested weakly. "Decades of careful balance." "The balance you maintained through murder," Jordan's voice carried controlled fury. "Through betrayal, through sacrificing loyal agents for profit. Around them, the international teams continued their precise work. Each operator carrying personal motivation, colleagues lost to syndicate cleanup operations, careers destroyed by their manipulation, lives shattered by their corruption. "Agent," Eric reported, checking tactical feeds. More syndicate facilities being secured worldwide. Intelligence services coordinating response on every continent. Melissa nodded, watching Chen being prepared for transport to a European intelligence service. Send everything to the International Task Force. Every piece of evidence, every exposed connection, every revealed operation. The ripples are still spreading, Martinez noted. This goes deeper than anyone imagined. Military contracts, political influence, international security protocols. They didn't just corrupt intelligence services, they corrupted the entire system, Melissa explained. Used their shadows to manipulate global security for profit. Through secure channels, they could hear the coordinated response continuing. Worldwide, decades of careful manipulation crumbling as evidence exposed the true scope of syndicate operations. Agent, Eric called out, monitoring communications. We're getting requests from multiple agencies. They all want to debrief you, understand how you exposed the syndicate's network. Tell them the truth, Melissa smiled coldly. Tell them about shadows, about hunters who learned to wait, about ghosts who never forgot. Jordan checked his tactical gear, preparing to escort his prisoners. 9 years, Phantom. 9 years you hunted them, built your network, prepared for this moment. They gave me time. Melissa watched Shaw's transport prepare to depart. After Sonora, after they tried to eliminate me, they thought I was finished. Just another loose and tied up. Instead, Eric understood, you became something else, something that hunted them from inside their own shadows. The morning sun climbed higher as the international teams finished their preparations. Each agency had its own prisoners to transport, its own evidence to process, its own justice to pursue. The syndicate's reign is over, Martinez announced, watching the vehicles depart. Their shadow empire exposed, their manipulation revealed, their power broken. Melissa nodded, but her expression remained watchful. The immediate threat is contained, but the ripples will continue. More corruption will be exposed, more conspiracies revealed, more shadows burned away. And the Phantom? Jordan asked quietly. What happens to the hunter when the prey is caught? There are always more shadows, Melissa replied. Always more corruption to expose, always more justice to pursue. Eric monitored the departing transports on tactical feeds. Each prisoner headed to a different jurisdiction. Each agency gets their chance at justice, Melissa added. As it should be. She watched the vehicles disappear into the morning light. Let them face accountability in every nation they corrupted. Let them answer for every agent they sacrificed, every operation they compromised, every life they destroyed. The warehouse that had seen the syndicate's final fall now stood quiet in the Arizona morning, but its impact would echo through intelligence services worldwide as decades of corruption finally faced the light of justice. Agent, Eric reported. In one final update, all syndicate prisoners secure, all evidence transmitted, all agencies coordinating response. Melissa nodded, watching the last transport vanish into the distance. The Phantom's hunt is finished, but the work continues. There are always more shadows to burn away, always more justice to pursue. The morning sun painted the mountains gold. As the international teams departed, each carrying a piece of the dismantled shadow empire, each pursuing their own justice for years of corruption and betrayal. The Phantom's mission was complete, but its impact would continue, echoing through intelligence services worldwide as decades of manipulation finally faced the consequences of their actions. 3 weeks after the syndicate's fall, Melissa Reynolds stood on her ranch porch, watching the Arizona sunset. The display, or ranch, had returned to its quiet routine, though changes were visible to those who knew where to look. More reports from the International Task Force, Nathan said, joining her with coffee. They're still finding syndicate connections, still exposing corrupt officials. They will for years, Melissa replied, accepting the cup. The syndicate's shadow empire reached everywhere, built influence in every agency, every service, every level of power. Her phone buzzed. Eric sending another update. The young operator had accepted a position coordinating between agencies, helping process the mountain of exposed evidence. 4 more syndicate facilities secured, she read. Another. Dozen sleeper agents identified. 2 more hidden accounts are frozen. She smiled slightly. The dominoes keep falling. Nathan studied his sister's face in the fading light. Do you miss it? The hunt? No, Melissa said after a moment. The Phantom did what it needed to do, exposed the corruption, burned away the shadows. Now it's time for others to carry that work forward. Through the evening air came the sound of approaching vehicles, not the threatening rumble of motorcycles this time, but the quiet efficiency of federal transports. Martinez emerged from the lead vehicle, followed by Jordan and other familiar faces from the international teams, each carrying folders, tablets, documents requiring the Phantom's expertise. Sorry to interrupt your retirement, Martinez said as they reached the porch. Again, but we need your insight on some new evidence. Melissa nodded toward the ranch house. They moved inside, spreading materials across the kitchen table that had once hosted family dinners. Now it serves as an impromptu command center for coordinating international justice. Syndicate operations exposed in 12 more countries, Jordan reported, displaying data. Each revelation leading to more corrupt officials, more compromised agents, more hidden facilities. Like pulling threads, Melissa observed, studying the evidence. Each connection reveals more of the tapestry they wove, more of the shadows they built. Eric's voice came through the conference call setup. Agent, we're seeing patterns matching Helios, Sonora, other operations where they eliminated witnesses. Of course, Melissa nodded. They used the same protocols everywhere, the same methods for hiding evidence, silencing witnesses, burying truth. Through the windows, they could see more vehicles arriving, representatives from various agencies, each bringing their own pieces of the expanding investigation. The syndicate leaders are talking, Martinez informed her, each trying to make deals, offer evidence, save themselves from justice. Let them talk. Melissa's smile was cold. Let them expose every operation, every conspiracy, every crime they committed. Let them tear down everything they built, trying to save themselves. Jordan checked her tactical tablet. Multiple jurisdictions preparing cases. International courts coordinating prosecution. Everyone wants their piece of justice. As they should. Melissa studied the evidence spread before her. The syndicate didn't just corrupt American intelligence. They manipulated every service, compromised every agency, betrayed every oath of loyalty. Agent, Eric reported through the conference line, we're getting more confirmations. Syndicate operations tied to weapons trafficking, technology theft, international security breaches. The shadows keep burning away. Every revelation exposes more corruption, more manipulation, more betrayal of trust, Melissa noted. Nathan brought coffee for everyone as they worked through the evidence. He'd adapted well to his sister's true nature, understanding that some duties never really ended. The Scorpion King's leadership is also cooperating, Martinez added, revealing their connections to syndicate operations, their role in weapons trafficking, their part in the larger conspiracy. Melissa nodded, remembering the bikers who'd unknowingly helped expose an international shadow empire. Everyone talks eventually. When the shadows burn away, truth finds its way into light. Through the evening, they coordinated responses to new evidence, each revelation leading to more investigations, more arrests, more justice being served. The ripples will continue for years, Jordan observed as they prepared to leave. Maybe decades. The syndicate's influence reached everywhere. Good, Melissa's voice was firm. Let every corrupt official wonder when they'll be exposed. Let every compromised agent face consequences. Let every shadow burn away. In time, the international teams departed as night fell over the Arizona ranch. But they'd be back, bringing more evidence, more connections, more threads to unravel. You're not really retiring, are you? Nathan asked as they watched the vehicles disappear. The Phantom is retired, Melissa corrected. But there's a difference between hunting shadows and helping others find the truth. Between being the Phantom and teaching others to see in darkness. Her phone buzzed one final time. Eric reporting success in another jurisdiction. More syndicate operations exposed, more corrupt officials arrested, more justice served. The work continues, she said quietly, watching the stars emerge. There will always be shadows to burn away, always be truth needing light, always be justice requiring service. The Double R Ranch had returned to its peaceful routine, but it had also become something else, a place where hunters gathered to coordinate, where evidence was analyzed, where truth was pursued. Melissa Reynolds had built her quiet life here, hiding the ghost she'd been. Now she'd built something else, a legacy of justice, a network of truth seekers, a force for burning away shadows. The Phantom's hunt was complete, but its impact would continue, echoing through intelligence services worldwide as decades of corruption faced the light of justice. And if new shadows tried to rise, if corruption attempted to rebuild, if darkness threatened to return, well, there was always a ghost watching, always hunters ready to pursue truth, always justice waiting to be served. Melissa smiled as the Arizona night deepened. She had found her balance between the quiet rancher's widow and the legendary Phantom, between personal peace and duties. Call. Between retiring from the hunt and helping others pursue justice. The Syndicate's shadow empire had fallen, but the work of maintaining light, of preserving truth, of serving justice, that work would continue through the hunters she'd trained, the network she'd built, the legacy she'd created. In the end, that was the Phantom's greatest victory, not just exposing one conspiracy, but creating a force that would continue burning away shadows wherever they tried to hide. Melissa Reynolds returned to her ranch life, but her impact lived on in every exposed corruption, every served justice, every truth brought to light. The Phantom had completed its hunt, but its legend would endure, reminding those who'd hide in shadows that justice eventually finds its way into light, that truth eventually burns away all darkness, that some shadows hide hunters, not just prey. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hits the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.